Oh, I meant to tweet it out. Did you tweet it out that we were live?
I'll tweet myself.
Okay. Well, hello, Josh. I mean, it's your channel.
Oh, yeah. Hi, and welcome to Josh's Bookish Voyage. My name is Josh, and this is Erica from The Broken Spine. Try to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Erica from The Broken Spine. And I'm just going to tweet out that we're live. So go ahead.
Okay, we're going to be talking about the debut book by Ahmed Sadawi called Frankenstein in Baghdad. And this is a sort of inspiration retelling of Frankenstein's Mary Shelley, which we'll also be discussing leading up to this book and some of the comparisons and how they feed in together, or rather how this feeds into this. This is my first ever live show on my channel and otherwise. So hopefully I can be entertaining and insightful.
Oh, you'll be fine. You are entertaining. You are insightful. I mean, who else can pull off a costume? Who was that? That's
Winifred Sanderson.
Winner from what?
From Hocus Pocus. When I bought that costume, I didn't actually know the name of her. I just knew that she was Bette Midler.
Because I couldn't do that.
That's not really insight. That's me being flashy to make up for my lack of insight.
It's better than what I would have done. I would have put up those paper cards that on the sticks with the faces on it. That's the extent of my creativity.
Oh, well, I think any level of creativity can be fun. I want to share this real quick on my Facebook page.
Okay.
So I guess I could start. Frankenstein in Baghdad is already said sort of a retelling of Frankenstein's Mary Shelley, but it's a novel set in the mid-2000s in Afghanistan, I believe.
Baghdad.
Right? Yeah, right. Is that not in Afghanistan?
My geography is crap.
The Middle East, and it is a political satire more than anything else about the war that's going on and all the crimes that are being done. And it uses Frankenstein as a way of discussing this and also trying to address it. Talk about, I guess, the nature of becoming victims and how victims sort of might become monsters as they sort of try to retaliate. Like, when do you lose the high ground, I guess, is part of the conversation here. Was that how you would describe it, Erica?
Yes, I would say that. I'm sorry, I'm typing a comment. I would definitely say that because it was there was one chapter, I guess, when we get there, just really solidified it for me that it was definitely political satire. So, and amongst other things that the author tried to discuss. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But, yeah. So go ahead.
Okay. But before we get too much into Frankenstein in Baghdad, I wanted to start off the conversation with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which I read before this. I know you started it, Erica, but you read it several times anyways. And it was my first time ever reading it. And I'm actually really glad I did. Look, I need to fit my face in the book on the screen. But I really liked this. It was really good. It was dark and creepy. And I say this as someone who has a hard time getting into Victorian literature. I loved, I guess, the commentary here about we have this monster being created and how I don't know if I've ever even seen the movie about Frankenstein, honestly. I mean, how it went from being this monster being created and the monster being monstrous to the creator being the monster and the monster being a bit of a victim. But at what point do we stop sympathizing with the monster, with Frankenstein's monster rather, and start thinking of him or it as a monster itself? I really like that transition because it definitely crossed some lines that I think Frankenstein in Baghdad definitely looks at. I gave Frankenstein's Mary Shelley a 4.5 out of 5 star. What is your rating of that book?
I would probably put it at a 4, just because I've read it so many times. I'm not really getting anything extra out of it now that I hadn't in the past. Because like the first time that I read it I'm sure I had to read it in high school. I probably did not. I'm sure I did not read it in high school. But the first time I had to read it with any real consequences was in college.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I told you earlier, that was like 20 years ago. And excuse me. And I remember really enjoying it. And then I've read it since. There's a graphic novel adaptation of it, which really, sidebar on that one. The graphic novel adaptation kind of reminds me of, oh my gosh, what's that director's name? He directed a lot of Johnny Depp films. Oh my gosh, Tim Burton.
Oh, I guess yeah.
The artwork looks very Tim Burton-ish.
I'll definitely check that out. I like Tim Burton.
And it's on scales of brown. But I realized I shouldn't say that, but it was really solidified how much I hated Victor and how much of a problematic character Victor is, and how amoral he is.
Everybody probably already knows Frankenstein, but just to be clear, Victor, of course, is the doctor, right? Dr. Frankenstein, or Frankenstein. Yeah. And I can't believe I've never, and obviously I'm familiar with all these movies, but after I read this, I realized I could not have read it before, seen the movie, because I never knew that Victor was the real monster. Like, people would have known that after 30 years.
A lot of people mistake Frankenstein. They say the monster is Frankenstein, and I'm like, no, that's not the case. It's really, it's Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
But really, Frankenstein is the monster. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, kind of. Not a double-edged sword, but kind of like a double entendre. Yeah.
I think one reason why it worked really well for me was because I came fresh off of Dracula, my first read of Dracula, which I thought was much slower. A lot of the creepiness and some scary moments. It had so much of the backdrop, of the world backdrop outside of Dracula, that this did not work for me. Which is why I was so pleasantly surprised by Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And I feel like I can definitely see myself rereading it like you have, because the conversation is going on there. Now, I am curious, before we get into the next book, how much sympathy did you have for Frankenstein's monster?
Okay, so I remember when I first read it for school, I obviously could care less. But as I've reread it over the years, I've definitely become more empathetic with the monster, and I'm like, why I hated that Victor got off so easily. That's just the way that I feel. I know he died, and I know he was tortured, and people around him were killed. The monster killed them, but I still feel like he got off really easy. That's just my opinion.
What about within the span of the novel? How would you say your view of Frankenstein evolves? Would you say it's sort of a consistent view on his morality, I suppose, his justification for his actions?
I'm going to still talk, but I'm going to get up for a second. As I've read Frankenstein over the years, my view of Victor, being like more amoral, it definitely, I saw that. And I think part of that is because I had lived a little, I had grown, I had matured. So
Mhm.
I could see that, I could understand it more. So I could definitely, as I've reread it, I could definitely see that. So yeah. What about you?
So for me, like I think I mentioned, I started off thinking, oh, he's a monster. Like Frankenstein's, sorry, the monster is a monster, and Dr. Frankenstein, Victor, I should say Victor, is was a victim of sorts. But then obviously, I very quickly started to realize that he was he was obviously not the victim, and that would be the monster is the victim. And the
Hmm.
problem was that after he made the decision, like sure, Victor was wrong not to make a wife or partner for for the monster. I think his fears his fears about not wanting to make one, or it seems to be embedded in so much fear mongering that we see today of like fearing something you don't understand and just assuming the worst and therefore making them the monster or making them or turning them into a monster because you don't want to do what's right for them. But then towards the end, obviously, Frankenstein, so the monster, I'm so used to thinking of Frankenstein, the monster as Frankenstein. Um, the monster then just starts obviously killing people who are associated with him, with Victor, who are their victims. And at some point, I can't help but lose sympathy for him. Like I understand the the misery of existence, but at some point, it's like you can't blame others for this, and it's just I don't know what the right answer is there, but
So are you saying you can't blame, are you talking about the monster is, or Victor?
so,
I'm sorry.
sorry, the monster who was created. Like I couldn't blame him for wanting revenge, for being upset and for
Okay.
hating existence, but the more he insists on hurting innocent people, innocent bystanders, it's harder to sympathize with him. Um,
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But at the same time, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. At the same time, he didn't ask to be created. And um, when when you don't have a moral compass to begin with, how can you really distinguish that what you're doing is is wrong? You know that you want to exact revenge, but you may not fully understand that what you're doing. And to some degree, the monster is very childlike.
mhm. That is
So
That's very fair. Uh,
um, I don't I completely understand what you're saying. If it was an adult, if it was like a true adult, then I would 100% agree with that. But I think he was still very childlike in some aspects.
I suppose that when I found out how much knowledge he had gained, I guess I got the impression that he had learned a lot more than he was giving on. Like to understand how to inflict this pain, he must like the fact that he feels so much pain should
Mm-hmm.
mean he has some sort of empathy. Like he expects empathy, so that means why isn't he doesn't he also have empathy in return? And I take your point. I guess I read it as him having learned more about the nature of the world. Because
Another, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, because how else would he understand how much pain that would cause, not just to Victor, but to the others around him? Like he understood how others would react to that outside of Victor, and how the
Yeah,
impact it would have on Victor. And that was the whole goal, right? Was to
yeah, but okay, I'm gonna keep going down this devil's advocate path right here.
yeah.
So he I'm gonna say this. If he's kind of childlike, as kids,
Mm-hmm.
we test our parents, we know that what we're doing is wrong.
Yeah,
And we're
that's good
we're
to say.
wondering at what point, our parents or our guardians are gonna be like, yeah, hold up. This is not acceptable.
Mhm.
And sit us down and have that conversation.
Yeah.
And so I think that because he didn't have any guidance, I mean, he was just
Mhm.
inanimate matter brought back
Yeah.
that he didn't. I mean, at the very beginning, I mean, he couldn't speak or anything. So it was what he learned, how he learned it, but there was no context in what he was learning. So that's just
something I wanted to say. I forgot what it was though. So Twilight never learned. Oh yeah, I remember now. You're right that Victor, whenever Victor didn't want to do something, he didn't try very hard to explain to Frankenstein. I was really impressed by Frankenstein trying to explain his case, while Victor on the other side would not at all try and communicate with him about his reasoning, like not in a sensible way. Like he would not. He wouldn't have the conversation. He didn't treat the monster with the same respect the monster treated with him, at least at first, as far as trying to have a reasonable conversation about it, which is meaning he didn't try to teach the monster what the right thing is. So you're right. So when you say you're playing devil's advocate though, is that where you stand on the argument, or were you pushing it to the extreme?
I was pushing it to the extreme.
So how much of that argument do you buy into?
How much of the argument do I buy into? I think the monster is fully aware of what he's doing. Yes. Yeah. So I do think that he is aware of what he's doing, because if not, then he has emotions, yes, and he knows that Victor, who created him, abandoned him, and he knows that it hurts, and he knows that feeling of abandonment, and Victor to some degree was abandoned as well. So, but that's a whole separate. We can dive into that. Psychology of Victor. But I think the monster, like I said, was fully aware of what he was doing, because he knew he had feelings, and he knew abandonment, and he knew how being abandoned felt and the pain that it caused him. So taking everyone and everything away from Victor, he wanted him to feel the same way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely wholeheartedly, I agree with you. I mean, what he was doing.
I do want to transition at some point to the next book, but I will say that as much as I don't agree or condone obviously what the monster is doing, at the same time it's like I sympathize. Granted, he doesn't have much to live for, so it's like
no, he's a slimy, stinky, hot mess.
And obviously he at one point he decides he'll become the monster they think he is. And so if you want to think the worst of him, he will do just that, which is a sad outcome to read. Yeah. One reason I like talking about this book so much is because I liked it a lot more than Frankenstein. So what was your general thoughts on this book, and what rating did you give it?
Wow, not necessarily in a good way. And it's a solid 3 for me. Okay. Yeah. So
I gave it 4 originally, but I'm really tempted to go back and give it 3.5. I don't know. I thought if I reread it, which I was really hoping I'd have time to, that I might be able to appreciate it more. But overall, I mean, it is more of a war story that is a political satire, and it just doesn't hit as hard for me as this one. The conversation in general didn't work as well, which it may just be a preference. Like, do you think it's objectively problematic from a literature perspective? I know you have a better background there.
Problematic from a literature literature perspective, yes. For me, it had some unexplained jumps in time, and it went from, what did it start off with? I can't even remember. Did it start off in first person?
I don't
But
remember.
anyway, it went to like third person, and then it ended in like first person. And I was like, and then there was a part that I felt, this is just stylistic for me, but there was a part where I can't even remember what it was, but then the sentence kept going, or the paragraph kept going, and I had to read the paragraph like 3 times because I didn't make the connection between the first half of the paragraph and the last half of it. And I was like, am I dense or what? And I just couldn't get it. I'm sorry, Sarah. Sarah said she gave it 5 stars. Made her cry.
Well,
I cried none. Not a lick. I cried that it was over. And meaning that I was glad that it was over.
That's hard.
So,
like I gave it a 4-star originally because I didn't have that many negative views. It did not resonate with me as well as Frankenstein. And I think part of that is that, well, not to get too much into it, like the type of Frankenstein is very different than the other one. Like I think science fiction Frankenstein works better from a horror perspective than a fantastical one. But I want to save that conversation for now. The problem, like with the writing style, I don't always notice little things like that because I'm listening. And if I'm missing a detail, it's because I'm thinking big picture and how it ties into the big picture, and I don't always recognize how there's a subtle change from one thing to the next. I just assume I missed something. I try to keep up. I didn't even realize there were different perspectives. I can be a really bad reader sometimes.
It's okay. I'm just kind of I'm that person. So, but anyway, go ahead.
I mean, details like that are why I like to reread a book, or why I like to hear reviews before I read a book. Like with the 5th season, I love the 5th season. The second go around, the first time, I did not much care for. Probably would have been a 3-star, just because of the writing was so specific, and you need to understand how everything connects, and those details make a book kind of hard to read. And maybe that's why this one didn't resonate as well.
When I went into the book, I was like, I didn't go in thinking that it was going to be a true retelling of Frankenstein, because most retellings of books of classics aren't. But I felt like this one just used the Frankenstein theme, and I liked what the author was trying to get across in the book. I did like that. And but there were just some technical issues, like Alishva, who's like, they call her the Mad Woman, and like if she's around, then like everybody is safe because they think that she has some supernatural powers that keeps people safe and stuff, which I guess is kind of true, because are we doing spoilers before I say this?
I think so. I mean, I sort of already given some stuff away. I think, at least we definitely for Frankenstein, I did.
Okay.
Yes, I guess.
Okay.
So,
when Alishva, I think that's how you pronounce it, when her grandson Daniel, who looks like her dead son of over 20 years, came back, and then they left the neighborhood, and then there was a bomb that was just like dropped on the neighborhood. But as long as she was there, nothing like happened. They got like aftershocks or something of other explosions or bombings. But I thought there was like a whole bunch of time. Like it started off with her, and like in subsequent chapters, and then all of a sudden she was gone. And didn't show up again until I feel like the end of the book,
Mhm.
when her son came, and I was just like, ugh, I can't. That was just like,
You see, when there's stuff like that, like I just assume like if something seems off, I assume it was my mistake for missing something, and I don't realize it's because the writer just makes a weird decision. But in regards to, you felt like it just would use the themes of the classic. Can you elaborate on what you think, what he included, what the author included from Frankenstein, and what do you think the important things that he probably excluded that you noticed were not here, or that were different, that made it less of a retelling and more of an inspiration, as you alluded to earlier before this?
I feel like this is an interview, Josh.
I'm sorry, can I talk more? I'm sorry.
I feel like I'm being interviewed.
You asked me to lead it. I'm trying to keep the conversation going.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Okay. Earlier, you said you thought it was more of an inspiration than a retelling, and
Okay, yeah.
I guess I can do it with this if you want, since I give my.
Yeah, you answer your question first.
Like I already alluded to the fact that, or mentioned the fact that the Frankenstein aspect is supernatural or fantasy instead of scientific for this. And personally, I liked, like I said before, I think it works better from a horror perspective as a work of mad science, just because like that's a type of like mad science it's inherently like frightful thing, I guess. And when it's fantastical, there's so many different types of fantasies out there that it just seems inherently less horrific to me, at least as a horror book. And for me, it doesn't work as well because when it's like it's a ghost or something, ghosts aren't always scary, at least not for me. And I don't know, that didn't work as well. But obviously, you still use that, and as well as so having Frankenstein obviously is a big thing. I'm not using my words very well, but the fact that the Frankenstein basically had to get revenge or kill the people who have wronged them when they were alive. Basically, Frankenstein is made of different body parts, and every body part has a different soul attached to it, and you have to revenge the person who had that body part originally. Mm-hmm. Like they have like a drive, something about their creation that drives them to do that. And so we have this idea of needing revenge, right? So
but the idea is also in Mary Shelley's.
Yeah, so that seemed like a big mirror. Like he was clearly still using Frankenstein to have this conversation about getting revenge or a person being wronged and trying to right that wrong and doing things that are really problematic. But also this problem of who gets to decide who the victim is when everyone thinks they're the victim at some point, right? Where you have the transition of the monster becoming every time to elaborate a bit more, every time the monster gets revenge for one body part, that body part falls off, so it has to be replaced. Over time, they start getting replaced with monsters like bad people, criminals. And so then those criminals that are now dead have their own ambitions. And either they feel like they have this wrong to commit. At one point, does he stop being the victim and stop being himself a criminal or something like that? It's not really good synopsis of that, but
yeah,
that seems to be where the two tie together. So like big picture, I thought like it really worked well as a mirror of the original Frankenstein. And I guess I was curious what you think it fell through in that aspect.
So where it kind of, I don't want to say went off the rails, because it didn't really go off the rail. Well, it did not go off the rails because of what the author was trying to, the message that the author was trying to get across, which is very pertinent to what's going on. And Sky said that she read it in the original language and lived there as well. So Sky has a different perspective of it as well. But and I think that also helps when you're kind of in it, and you can see the effects of it. So being detached from that, I think that, what was the question again?
How
Frankenstein differed.
How the Frankenstein book Like
Okay.
what parts are still there and what parts are missing. For better.
Yeah, I'll get it eventually. I'll get it. But how I think the glaring difference for me was that Frankenstein in Baghdad, his creator, not one of the biggest, but one of the things that differed, Frankenstein's creator was like actively looking for him. And he was like, where is my creation? Where did it go? And he was like, I want it back. And, you know, he went looking for it. And whereas in Shelley's Frankenstein, Victor hauled ass away from him, like tried to get as far away from him as possible. And the fact that when the Frankenstein in Baghdad, that monster, or what's its name?
Yeah. People who don't know, that's literally what they call it. What's its name?
Yeah, what's its name? Yeah. Came to, is it Hadi? I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not sure.
That sounds right.
When he came to him and he was like, yeah, I'm going to kill you too. And then Hadi was like, save me for last. I was like, wait, how do you negotiate this? And like everything around them. And I mean, just people get numb to things around them and what's going on. And I thought it was really weird that Hadi was like standing after like a car bomb or something had gone off. He's just like standing in the middle standing alongside the road, smoking a cigarette, waiting for something, which we later find out is a nose. Waiting for a nose, which comes conveniently rolling down the street, which I was like, okay. And he picks that up and puts that in his satchel, which I was just like, ew, that's disgusting. What are you going to do with a nose? And then when we get to the whole monster thing, and I don't know, that it was interesting. But then like the never ending cycle of him having to replace body parts, and then this whole clan of people that were his followers and stuff, and then they ended up killing each other. What the heck was that all about? And then he killed an innocent dude because he couldn't see, so he took his eyes and his glasses, by the way, because his eyes wouldn't stay in.
I think him killing all his followers, or them killing each other, is supposed to be this conversation about who the bad people are and at what point you become a monster. Very simplified way of looking at it, but it seems to be what I'm trying to get at.
I think that also the followers also, more specifically, I think talks or speaks to cult action or cultivism. Is that a word? I don't know. But people in cults, because they were like, he's our God, and you know, you can't, we're the only ones, like it was like the three madmen and then a magician and somebody else. He was they were like part of a religious sect, and what's its name was their cult leader, so to speak.
Well, I got the impression it was also somewhat political, like, right? Like, this is basically what politics has become these days, where we have these followers everyone wants to obey and do whatever it takes for them. I don't know.
Can you highlight that sky?
Oh yeah,
Angel.
Yeah, I can do that.
Wanted to just post it. Yes. I was thinking about that because actually it's in the book. Because there's a teenager that's sitting by his body, and he tells the guard's ghost or spirit to go back and find his body. And he was like, I looked all over for it and I can't find it. And so he's like going around and looking for it. But the teenager that's sitting by his body is like, if you don't find your body, then bad things will happen. So there is some the religious aspect and the ceremonial burial that exists, because there are cultures out there that believe, your spirit leaves your body, or you have to be joined, however. So I totally agree with that, Sarah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
definitely ties in.
And I'm gonna sidebar for a second. There's a book called The Night Tiger, Yang Chu, and the guy at the very beginning, the guy dies, and he tells his boy servant to find his finger, and he has to find the finger within a certain amount of time and put it with his body. And if he doesn't, then his spirit is going to roam the earth for eternity. So, yeah. All right.
That's a good point. A good set of points. Sorry. Yeah, this book was a lot more spiritual than Shelley's book.
Yeah, I my Kindle keeps shutting down. But there was actually, you know what? Let me go over to Goodreads. But go ahead and talk. I need to find my notes.
Yeah, I have really important words to say. I have the best words. Sorry.
What?
Okay. One thing I know, the book only was 8 hours of audiobook, and so it really wasn't that long, but it felt longer than it really was, and I felt like I thought it was a really good start to a book, and then it felt kind of repetitive at some point, and I was like, why is this still happening? Why isn't it getting to the point? And I feel like it could have been shorter, and maybe a more effective book if it hadn't sort of drowned out this process of having to replace body parts. And I get it, need to make its point of a series of points with introducing the monster and then having the monster get a cult and the cult falling apart, things like that. But it sort of felt longer than it needed to be.
Yes, I will agree with that. There's okay, wait. There's a part in here. It says parts of one dream made up for parts missing in another. And I was just thinking about how him having to replace the body parts all the time, or he's constantly missing something. And not only him, but other people as well. So their dreams, like the guard that was killed, his dreams were never fully realized because he was married young, and then they had a little baby girl. So he had dreams of, obviously, seeing his daughter raising his daughter, having a family, and dreams of other things. Because I think he even said in there that he didn't plan to be this guard forever. But that was taken away because Hadi didn't cross the street. And if Hadi had crossed the street, then he never would have come down from the guard tower. Mm-hmm. So, and never the suicide bomber thing may have just injured him. So it seems like everyone in here is missing some part of something.
Mm-hmm.
So,
it definitely is like a big part of the conversation of people needing more, something about being here that they're missing things. And I'm not really saying this very well. What I'm trying to say is, do you think that's at all analogous to Frankenstein in the first book, Mary Shelley's book? He's missing a partner. And I guess I know it's not quite the same thing, but I'm curious whether or not that would have satiated him, and whether or not you think
And
would have been enough.
Frankenstein,
Yes.
if he had a partner,
Like he would felt like this, he needed someone to live with, and like he had his own thing that he felt like something he was hoping to get, and that was driving him, which is similar to, I guess, what these people are trying to do. They feel like they're missing something, they need something, and they never get it. Do you think Frankenstein would have gotten it if he had gotten a partner? Like he
no,
wanted?
because I don't think him having a partner. In Shelley's Frankenstein, I don't think him having a partner, it would have satisfied him for a little while, but I don't think, just in general, like for the long run or the long haul, I don't think that either one of them would have been satisfied.
You mean Victor and the monster?
No, Victor and his partner. Not Victor and his partner, but the monster and his partner.
So I'm curious that if we, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I mean, if we think that, then like when I was reading the book, I thought, why don't we just make the monster for him? Sorry, make the partner for him. And by your logic, that would mean that Victor made the right decision. In which case, is he really that big of a monster if he did the safe thing of not making two of them?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's right. I mean, I could be completely wrong about that, but
the right answer. I feel like, so one big conversation, I know it's not quite the same as in Baghdad, but I have a habit of bringing a conversation to what I want to talk about. Is with the I couldn't help but sympathize largely with the monster in here, even despite the actions he was doing in Mary Shelley's book. And it's sort of like with in Beowulf, there's this poem from his mother's perspective and how looking for them at the monster from their side, and I feel like we have this tension, not tension, this what's what I'm looking for?
I don't know.
This tendency
Okay.
To make people into monsters and assume the worst of them, and there's no dealing with it. You create a monster and assuming that they are a monster, and I guess it goes beyond than just these monsters here, but like on a political level too, where when we assume someone's a monster, that's all they can be.
Yeah, and that's addressed in both of them, actually, because in Frankenstein and Baghdad, he's like, I don't want fame, I don't want this, I don't want that. I want people to know that I am exacting revenge for the body parts. And after that's done, then I'm done. But he can't be done because every time he exacts revenge for a body part, then it falls off. Yeah. So it's got to be replaced. So it's like a never-ending cycle of him exacting revenge. And
sorry.
No, go ahead. Because I lost my thought.
Sorry. From a scientist's perspective, I can think of a way he could have accomplished this. Like he had a cult at one point, so all he had to do was get the cult members to all kill the people he needs to kill at the same time, and then they're all dead simultaneously, and the problem solved.
And that's what I thought. I was like, okay, so you've got all of these people, and you're going out doing this. That's weird. And you're going to get shot up. That's weird.
Yeah.
And then there were things that didn't quite make sense, but I understood why he was like, I got to go do this. I have to take care of this, and no one else can. I got it, but it was just kind of weird because at one point, one, I think it was like the young madman, the youngest one, had like over 200 people in his group, and they all went by numbers, and I was just like, okay, this is just kind of weird, that they couldn't get it together, to like help him out in that way, only bringing batteries for the tape recorder.
I might be reading this wrong, but wasn't Frankenstein or what's its name? I love that name. It's exactly what I would name.
Right?
What's its name? Was hesitant to want the cult, or am I remembering this wrong? Like he didn't.
No, you're not. Yeah, I mean, he didn't want all of that.
Yeah.
And
he didn't like being seen as a god almost.
The narrator was even like, it poses a logistical problem, and like it's drawing attention to them that there are so many people. There's so many people there that they had to move into other buildings around in the surrounding area. And that's just going to bring attention to them and to him. Yes, the criminals and the body parts. I wanted to talk about that. So thanks, Sarah.
I think it's just sort of like what's the one looking for here? It wasn't even like it was a gradual thing. Like this conversation of this problem, it's like it's one they should have been concerned with from the get-go, right? Even without having, I'm really not thinking my thoughts together. Even if they weren't objectively criminals, nobody's perfect. So there's always going to have been this problem from the get-go of him having very problematic ambitions. Who gets to decide who the victim is? Obviously, it's the people that he's made of. It's a slippery slope to exactly this. I'm trying to say.
And I'm going through my notes because the whole frightened by Americans, because there were so many sketchy characters in here that that it was hard. It would have been hard at some point not to get like criminal body parts from criminals. And and where did he say, he even said it, that he asked about the body parts because he felt like he got more aggressive or something. And he did ask, like, where did this come from? Who did this come from? And then was it the magician? Or I can't remember which one of the characters said it, but was talking about how there's criminal. You know what? Go ahead and talk. I'm going to look it up because I'm trying to look it up and I can't.
I'm not entirely sure what you're getting at for that. So, and I'm not sure I have more to say about it. So we'll get back to that when you're ready. There was something I did want to say, though, was that I said several times that I didn't think the book was as horrific or as scary or as effective as Frankenstein. Or maybe I haven't said exactly, but that's what I have thought. Like it didn't work as well for me. And I know it worked better for Sky. And it reminds me of this conversation that was had recently on Jesse from Bow Ties and Books page about how we interpret horror stories. And specifically, white people interpreting people of color's horror stories and how we try and designate something as horror or not horror because it doesn't work for us. And how clearly what is horror is will vary. And specifically with something for this, which is so specific to the region and to this conversation, it can be being more horrific to other people depending on your relationship setting.
And that was one of the reasons why I didn't articulate it quite as well, but because I am removed from the incidents or the tragedies that went on during this time, that I can't fully understand all of it. So I can't say that it was, I mean, it was horrific. Don't get me wrong. The events were absolutely horrific. But for me, as a novel, that I can't put it in a horror genre for me because I don't have that experience.
Yeah. It's one of watch a war film, and like that clearly is horrific in its own way.
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, looking at it, and like, if you could exact revenge like that, then you would be doing that on a like what's his name is doing it on a consistent basis all day, every day, because there's no end in sight, because everybody that was killed needs revenge against the perpetrator. So, and then when he started killing innocents, and he became the perpetrator. So, and he even asked it, what's its name? Even asked the question, well, who gets revenge for the innocents that I killed? I mean, so at what point do you stop? And I mean, he's gonna die. He's gonna disintegrate anyway, whether he exacts revenge or not. But it's just a matter of time. So, because I think even so, some of the body parts that he hadn't gotten revenge for were starting to like fall off or something. They couldn't keep stitched on.
Yeah, I think the fact that I think him getting the cult sort of analogous to how we have this, like we like to think about the possibility of getting revenge and the satisfaction that would come from that. And I think that's the kind of feeling that might beget this cult. But the crumbling of the cult sort of symbolizes how that approach clearly isn't sustainable. How that kind of revenge mentality it seems nice, and it's a nice idea to fantasize about sometimes, but it isn't effective. It isn't going to solve any problems. It doesn't make you feel better. Creates new problems, makes you hate even more.
And revenge is really quite toxic, and not self-sustaining, and it creates problems for you and the people around you. So, I mean, when we think about that and how this was like everybody was killed except for like one person, and then I think the monster ended up killing him. That was not the monster. What's his name? Ended up killing like the last person that was left alive or something like that in his cult, so to speak. So, and then like, what was it? When one, like, his body parts were falling off, and the two people that were killed out there, and they left the one body, and the one that was begging for his life, they left his body, but they brought the other guy's body back and used his body to replace the parts. And then he went to go exact revenge for him and ended up killing all of these people. Now, my question is, his method of killing people was strangulation. And I find that really interesting, because that's like up close and personal. That's like right in your face kind of thing. Person is looking at you, and they're literally, you're the last thing that they see. And I find that interesting, because strangulation is very personal.
That's a good point. That didn't occur to me as being significant. I guess I just assumed it was because that's what they did in Frankenstein, right? He suffocated him or something. Right?
Yeah. Very personal. And I thought that was interesting, that in wartime and what was going on and all the guns that were around, and that's how the author chose to have his monster kill people.
It's weird though, because it's personal for the monster, but not really for the person being killed, because if you're being made of parts, you don't understand what's happening.
Yeah. And who was it? One of the astronomers
I don't.
who went down into the alley and he took his hands. Do you remember that part?
When I tell you that the book was long and seemed to bleed together, they all sound like believable scenes. I can't recall.
So one of the astrologers or astronomers from the from what that unit was that the brigadier had,
Mm-hmm.
He had laid out the cards and was like, oh yeah, he's at this place, which was El-Shava's place, and he wasn't there when they got there, but the suicide bomber was. Anyway, so later on, that particular astrologer had to get out. He was taking a taxi someplace, and the taxi driver told him to get out because the road was blocked. And he was like, well, I just live right around the corner. The taxi driver was like, I just live right around the corner, so you got to get out. And I was like, okay. And so he gets out, and he's like walking, and then he like decides, I guess he's going to take like a shortcut or something. I don't know. But he ends up going down like an alley. And in the alley, what's his name is there. Mm-hmm. And he says that he wants to see what's his name's face. And what's his name is like, why? All I want are your hands. And I'm like, this is a weird exchange, okay? And I mean, there's more to it, and I would have to find the quote, but there's more to it. But I was just like, I don't understand. I really don't understand this exchange that's going on. And then
what is it about you that you're saying you don't understand?
I don't understand why the exchange was happening. Like, why didn't what's his name just go ahead and kill him? You know? And he's like, well, what? And he's like, what does it matter whether or not you see my face? My face changes on a regular basis. And that's the other thing, which was not fleshed out, or maybe I missed it, because the astrologer was like, when he did finally get a glimpse of his face, he was like, I recognize that face.
Yeah.
But then I don't think that it was followed up about who it was that he recognized.
I just took it to mean that it was supposed to be that his face was like, maybe that face is the one that needs to get revenge. That body part is the one that needs to get revenge against the astrologer.
Who was it?
Oh, I don't know if we're supposed. Like, does it matter? Like, really?
It matters to me.
I don't think it was supposed to matter. That was the impression I got.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, I wanted to know who it reminded him of, or who he was like, I know that face.
Someone wronged.
Who it was.
I don't know. I just took it as being someone he wronged, and that's all that matters.
I got it was somebody he wronged, but I wanted to know who it was.
There's a lot of weird stuff that happens unnecessarily that, like, I like the absurdness of it. At the same time, it takes away from the horror aspect. Like, the entire inclusion of this astrology section of the government, like, I didn't think it was going to be real at first. And then when it was, I was like, okay, that's weird. But I hate astrology, but okay, it's just fiction. But like, it all just seemed unnecessary. I didn't understand how it fit or why it fit. I just assumed it had something to do, like, maybe there's actually a sect of the government there that has an astrology section. And he just had to make it work, but just it all didn't work. I mean,
that whole thing, like, the book started off with that. The section, whatever the section, and then people were put on leave or something, and I just didn't know where that was going to go. And then it went to, like, the preface. I think it was the preface. You know what? Let's just pull that bad boy up.
I'll just reread the entire preface for everyone.
Huh?
No, I was a joke. I said I'll reread the entire preface.
No, we're not going to do that. I just want to see something. But how it occurred that there was like a reprimand or something that happened, and then they like shut down the thing, shut down the program, and it was just, and then it went into the story, and it started off with the mad woman. What's good and evil? I'm sorry.
I'm Googling it. You keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to distract you.
Oh, no. But I had a problem with that at the beginning. What is it? It's called the final report. So I had a bit of a problem because with the final report, they're talking about how they disbanded the group, by reading it correctly. The tracking and pursuit department. Okay. I have to sidebar here. Not really sidebar, but I'm having a squirrel moment right now. In this, the tracking and pursuit department, this is where I had a problem with like some of the time jumps, because I didn't know when things were happening. Like there was no chronology. And like at one point we find out that they're 2 years into the future, 2 years into the future. And I don't know when like people left, or like Hadid, and it was just, that was a problematic for me, just the time jumps. And I kept finding myself going back. And this took place over 4 years?
I don't know.
It was a long period of time. And all I know is that we jumped 2 years. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the book, it says, I think like from 2000, we'll just say 2006 to 2012, however long it was. And I was like, but I don't know when any of this happened. Like how did we make these jumps? And it was just,
I don't know. It didn't bother me. I'm not sure if I didn't think too much of it.
No, I mean it's fine.
No, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I don't know what to say, because I didn't realize. I take your point, and I'm not sure. Maybe I just didn't think about it because I didn't realize it was happening.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you were supposed to realize that it was happening. I don't know if it was supposed to be like a continuous thing, but like I said before we started the stream, like I felt, because he said 2 years later, mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, when did we get 2 years later? And
it happens. I just assume things are continuing as we've been seeing them, and now we're on to a new section of the story, I guess.
And that was the other issue that I had.
Yeah.
Because he kept jumping back and forth in time, and it was a little distracting to me, mm-hmm. Because I felt like I had to keep going back to what was being said. Like, how did we make this leap, and why are we here? And
do you have a problem with the story that when it's done without much description or much breakdown, I guess?
So that I was reading Sarah's comment.
I was saying, do you dislike time jumps like that in general in books, or is it not given good not good done well? I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I don't have a problem with time jumps. I just need to kind of have a bit of an explanation I think because there was nothing there. It just happened. And I don't know if it was supposed to feel like a dream or if it was, or what, but it just didn't, it just didn't work for me.
Okay.
It was problematic.
Right.
The more I talk about this, I might end up giving this a 2.
The conversation's making you just like it even more. I think the writer said the book feels. So she said, I think I heard the writer said the book parallels important political events in Iraq. So
I can believe that. It feels like that. It definitely feels like that. And I don't know enough about the political events in Iraq to comment with any assurance.
Maybe the time was supposed to help keep us to stay on track with these events, and he assumed we would follow along with those events.
Yeah.
Not 2 stars. That's the conclusion of our show. Well,
I'm sorry, Sarah.
If you give it 2 stars, I'll give it 4 stars, so it evens out on Goodreads. The more I talk to you about it, the more you make me think I question whether or not I liked it or not. I don't know.
Oh gosh, don't listen to me like that.
I mean, the thing that is the most disappointing thing about this book was that I expected to be more of a horror, to be more horrific towards me. To be like, it was a good book, and I think I would have enjoyed it more if I had different expectations going in.
Yeah, I definitely see that. And then we have to remember that we're going into it with our own experiences, and our experiences don't include what happened during that time, or even what's happening now. So
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was very disconnected from politics in the early 2000s. I mean, I was 2008. I turned 18. So like even then, though, like in that period, like it wasn't until I was 2012 that I really started to follow along politics more.
Mm-hmm.
So like this is a period that I'm not very familiar with.
Yeah, neither am I. So, but I mean, if you just take just the events as to how you know them, what you learned in school, which is probably not very much, then we can see how horrific it is.
Yeah.
Because it's not a secret, and it's just it was / is horrible.
Yeah.
So if we look at it from that perspective versus looking at it from did it scare me perspective, then we can see the horror in it.
Yeah. So with I think there's a difference between saying something is horrific and something is horror.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
I think it's true within horror in general. Beyond this book, that horror is very subjective, and what different people find scary isn't just a matter of experience; it's also just a matter of different types of horror genres, right? And I don't think people should not read this. I think people can enjoy this. I don't. You didn't enjoy it, but and some people might actually find it scarier than we did.
Yeah, and it is subjective because there were a couple of things in here that had me creeped out. I'm looking at my Goodreads, trying to find my notes for it, and I can't. But there were things in here that were that I found disturbing, other than what's its name.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, I'm typing BAGHDAD. And it was one thing was when he was talking about his body parts oozing. I thought that was pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
And then Hadid sat next to him, and he was like, he could smell his stench. And I was like, why are you sitting next to him? And I mean, just like little petty things like that. And I thought that, what's his name? Farik, the real estate guy.
I really pay more attention to this list in the front. But.
Well, the real estate guy, he was like, said to Elshva, why won't you just die already? And I was like, okay, I need what's his name to come and kill him because he just worked. Oh my gosh. And did he ever get killed? I don't think he did. Like,
I don't know. I
don't think he did. He was like the one that didn't get killed, that should have gotten killed.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hadid like turns himself in and says, I've been the one that's doing it, after he gets disfigured in the blast.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, what does he have to live for? Because now he's disfigured. And go ahead. I'm going to look something up and I'm going to find it this time.
Okay. So go ahead. I'm not ready. I don't know. I feel like I've said pretty much everything I need to say with this. I don't know what to say.
Okay. So there's a part, looking for my highlights. There's a part in here that's towards the end, and he's talking about how people are judged, and the fire had I think this is it. The fire had completely disfigured him. He had realized this days earlier when he had come out of the coma. Expected his face to do better.
Why are you looking that up?
No, that's not it.
Okay, you keep looking, because I did also take something to say. The definition. So I found something to talk about. The definition of horror in Arabic literature is very different. That's a good point. And I assume that might be the case. Now, one thing I will say about this is, one thing I did like about it is it's almost comedic because of the satire, and I love how you go for something that's almost, I don't want to say lighthearted, but at times like the interaction between the astrologer and the what's its name wanting the hands, it felt sort of absurd, and that sort of lightheartedness mixed with the gruesomeness. I really like that as a sort of storytelling. It isn't horror to me, but it is. I don't know. It takes really dark things and mixes in, makes it amusing, even though it shouldn't be amusing. And that side of the story, I did like.
There were some kind of chuckle moments in here. There were very few, but I mean, there were some chuckle moments in here. Did you find that? Was that what you were talking about?
Yeah, kind of. Like, not necessarily even just the funny moments, but like just the weird, absurdist moments that were a sort of dark comedy.
Yeah. So I liked, as far as like the absurdity of it, like when Elshva, her eyesight was horrible, and she's like, she brings this guy into his corpse thing into her home, and she's like, oh, Daniel has come back. I'm like, okay. And then I thought that he was going to kill her at the very beginning, and turns out obviously that he did not. But and she gave him some of Daniel's clothes that somehow fit perfectly, which I thought was just weird. But that cat, I don't know what it was about this cat, like leaving clumps of hair everywhere, and like I could just see this particular cat like having bald spots, and the comedy of errors that this cat was vibes this cat was giving me was just every time it came up, I just kind of had a chuckle with the cat. But and then with her not being able to see so well, not realizing that, this is not a human as we like to think as of humans. And the fact that she didn't smell anything from him was weird.
Mhm.
And so there were a lot of absurdities that, and it was kind of interesting how he always was able to evade. He did give him like the same supernatural strength and speed that Shelley gave, and he was a big guy as
Mhm.
well. The same, so he had a lot of the same characteristics as Shelley's Frankenstein. He wasn't able to talk, but him being able to talk came fairly early on, much sooner than Frankenstein's monster.
Mhm.
But I can't find it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I thought it was really quite important because the author said in the book that what's its name was made up of all of these body parts, and he was like the real face of Baghdad, of Iraq, and that people look at you, and we talked about this a little bit. People look at you and make judgments about you based on where you're from, what you look like, what your religion is, and they don't even know who you are. And so what's his name was an amalgamation of all of these different people, different shades of people from differing regions and religious sects, and all of them had been wronged somehow. So I thought that was really important, that I feel like the author was trying to get across. It doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, where you're from, what religion you belong to, which political faction you follow. We are all the same.
Mhm.
So I feel like that was kind of, and I may be simplifying this, that was kind of a huge arching, overarching, I think that's the word I want, theme of the book, that we are no different, and why are we fighting?
Mhm. Yeah, that definitely feeds into the idea of who's the victim and who's the monster.
Yeah.
Who to be the victim. We all think we're the victim, that rather. Yeah.
Yeah. And people who had been killed, plus avenge their deaths. Yeah, no, that's not it. I wish I could find it because I really liked that quote. And what did you think of Mahmoud?
Remind me of who that was again.
Mahmoud was the reporter. He was the one.
I think I liked him. I really wish I read the book now.
He was the young reporter that
I interesting.
the tape recorder, and Heidi gave tape recorder to what's its name.
I thought it was interesting how he was trying to report this and record on it. I thought it was an interesting way of telling the story, of getting it out there. That's pretty much all I thought about him, and had strong feelings about him.
Because I kind of feel like Mahmoud was supposed to, as a reporter, was kind of supposed to drive the plot forward, because there were times when Mahmoud appeared and the author used him to drive the plot forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed, at least for me, that whenever there was like a lull or it got kind of boring or repetitive, that Mahmoud would appear.
Okay. Yeah, see, I know what you mean. I thought that's what I meant by me thinking that the story sort of went on longer than it needed to, because I thought when we had him around, like that was the point of the arc, and then we cast him aside and we focus on a moment for a while, and it seemed to drag on. And I thought it was better. The story would have been better if we just let him be the focus point and not drive the narrative.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I think it could have. I think if the author had focused on, because there were a hell of a lot of characters. And I was like, and at the beginning of the book, I don't know about your book, but at the beginning of the book, there's like a character list, and it's like 2 pages or 2.5 pages. I was like, that's a lot of people. Yeah. List of characters. It's a lot of people, and I couldn't keep track of everyone.
I never once looked at the list.
So I was just like, if the novel had focused on Mahmoud and what's his name? So if it was like a dual perspective or dual POV novel, then I think that would have been better than the way that it was told, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree.
So, alternating chapters of Mahmoud and what's its name, where what's its name, you know what I mean. So
sorry.
I think that it would have worked better for me.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do wonder if maybe that would have been as confusing if we were from the region, meaning like the names are not names we're used to. So maybe that's one reason why it's harder for us to.
I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I don't know that that would have made a difference. I think maybe knowing the culture a little more would definitely have made a bit of an impact. At least I could put it into more of a cultural perspective.
I do agree that it would have been better if it had focused on those 2 narratives. Isn't that what Mary Shelley does? If we only get basically 2 perspectives of Frankenstein, and it helps keeps the story focused, and we still have the ability to see the impact from
because it's like what's his name? Robert Watson, is that his name?
That's in Mary Shelley's?
Yeah.
We
do hear from the monster though.
Well, yeah, right. That's 2 perspectives. So it's like, oh.
But it's Victor, because he's dying. Right? He's relaying his message. Oh, another thing. There are the parallels here. Because I said Watson. It's Walton. R. Walton. Victor says, but he says it early in the novel, letter 4. He says that he's telling Walton that the story, because he says, I see a lot of you in me. I don't know where it is, but
wait, yes.
He's like, I'm telling you this because I see like your ambition or something, and I see you in me, or I see me in you, something like that.
I forgot it was told by letters. For some reason I was associating letters to Dracula, and I remembered that even though the bulk of the story is told in 1 letter, basically.
Yeah. And
Letter is part of a bigger letter.
so it is, and then in Baghdad, Saidi
Mhm.
makes a phone call, calls Mahmoud, and says to him, the reason why they went to the brigadier's office was because he wanted the astrologers to tell Mahmoud's future, and so his future is told, but Saidi doesn't let on that this is what the astrologer says about Mahmoud's future. But he says that Saidi says that he sees in Mahmoud a lot of him. In Saidi says that he sees a lot of him in Mahmoud,
Yeah.
and the ambition and the whatever else. And that was the other thing that I wanted to bring up, is that there's a lot of talk about ambition and power in here. And everybody wants power.
Mhm.
And Mahmoud seems to think that he does not want power. But then after he's had a taste of it while being the editor in chief, he's like, I want this power. But he doesn't want like political power, but he still likes wielding power. So, and then Elishva, she's holding her power of her house and the belongings within her house over Hadi's head and over Farid. I guess that's, I don't know. Over their heads. No, you can't have my house. No, you can't have the belongings in my house. And that's it. So everybody wants some sort of power. They're all craving it.
I
In
think
some
it's nature though to want some control, right, in the world
Yeah. And
more than
even
others.
if it's just to control your own little space. And Alishfa even says, because Salim, I think that's her name, her neighbor, she's like, why don't you come stay with us and we'll fix up and you'll get your house fixed up, and her kids will rent out the room, but you'll get the money for it. And then she's like, Alishfa is like, well, does Salim just want to take control of her house, and not give her, and she won't see any of that money? Or is she just she's gonna sell it and put it in her name? What is she gonna do? And then she's like, no, I'm not gonna move in with them. Because she's like holding on to the last thing that she has. Her kids have moved away. Her son Daniel is dead, and that's the last thing that she has.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. It was interesting.
Yeah, another thing I really noticed, I didn't think about the different, I guess, dynamics of power.
Yeah, sorry, I go down these rabbit holes.
I'm not a good reader. No, these are really interesting things that I'm glad you're bringing up. I feel like I wish I had more to contribute.
It's okay.
Just that's a good point.
But yeah, I just thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I still wonder though if it's okay. I just look down at Frankenstein, and it says that Victor was self-taught with regard to his favorite studies. And who was it? There was a character, I feel, in Baghdad that was self-taught as well.
I do not recall.
I don't remember either, and I could be making it up. So, but there is that too, because Hadidi, I think I don't know. How did he know how to sew those body parts together?
Oh, I don't know. These are questions I don't ask because I don't figure it out. I just assume they're not telling me.
I thought I was like, oh. So then I thought, is he making more of them? Because when they were at the what do you call it? At the compound, and he said his followers, I thought that Hadidi, because somewhere in the novel, what's his name said, well, you have to fix for every body part that I lose, you have to stitch me a new one on, right? Mm-hmm. And so I thought that Hadid had actually just Hadi, I think that's his name. I thought that he made him just like other minions, and so they were at this compound, but that I didn't realize that they were actual people, and then it clicked that they were actual people.
Wait, I don't know what you're talking about. They made a minion of Frankenstein?
No, I thought that Hadi had done that. So all like his 6 companions, mm-hmm. I thought Hadi had made 6 more of these things, but he didn't. They were actual real people. You see what I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah, I understand. Like, I do agree. The process of making these Frankensteins always seems very ambiguous to me. I remember when I first read or first started Mary Shelley's book, the first thing I realized was that the creation of Frankenstein was so quick and almost anticlimactic. I thought it was going to be the big climax of the story, would be the creation of him. And so when that happened, I was surprised at how the point of the story was clearly going in a different direction. And I felt similarly about this one as well, like where I didn't think about how it was being created. It just was. And I didn't quite understand why, but then again, I didn't quite understand how or why the original Frankenstein was, other than science.
Yeah, and they both reflect, how can I put this?
Ambition?
No, social issues. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because in I know Baghdad, they talk about it, and I think I said it already, that how they're looked at, how people are looked at, and how people run away from others that look different than they do, than they look, and just how, and we did talk about this, how society views other people, and we're quick to say, you don't look like me, you don't believe the same things that I believe, and we're quick to dismiss you, dismiss the other person. And that's something that's talked about here and talked about in both of them, because when in Shelley's Frankenstein, when people saw the monster, they ran away and didn't give him the time of day. I think there was only one person, and I think it was a little girl in Shelley's Frankenstein, that was actually caring towards the monster. And then when our parents found out about it, it was like, oh no, this is not acceptable. And then so like they took that away, that caring aspect away from him. And he once again was abandoned by society, because he didn't look like the rest of them. Mm-hmm. But I'm here for it.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any questions?
Question. Yes.
Ask away.
Away.
The definition of horror in Arabic literature is also very different. What does that mean? What does horror mean in Arabic? I'm sorry, Sarah.
Yeah. Which, while she's answering that, I will say that I feel like what is horror in the horror genre isn't quite the same as what is scary or disturbing. I don't say it isn't disturbing in its own way, but it's not the same. Like that too varies. Like, what is you looking to get from horror? Like, I read Widest for Reaching by Helen Yemi, and I loved it. It was unnerving in some ways, but at the same time, it was just gothic horror. Like, it's still horror to me, but it's not horror at all in some aspects. But it really depends on what you're looking for. And like, I would still say this is definitely horror, but I also think horror is a huge genre.
It is. The definition of horror: a thriller or mystery is horror. Okay. Because there's barely any horror. Okay, okay. So having said that, then that puts a different take on this.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Because it is definitely a thriller, and it's definitely a mystery.
Yeah.
Or thriller.
Like, when I started reading this, I cut that stuff out when I edit.
Yeah, there's no editing this. That's all in here.
I know that.
Real time.
I know. Okay. Well, but the point is, like, people thought Home Before Dark was scary, and it's like not scary at all. But it's because if you haven't read like Shirley Jackson type horror, this is creepy in its own way, right? It's a different. It's just almost like it being synthesized, not synthesized, but what's the word I'm looking for? When you get used to something, like different levels of extreme. There's a word for it. I don't know what it's called, but
yeah, goes against religious values to reveal pain or horror. So, okay, all right, that. Oh, Shannon laughed at you. That's. Any questions or comments? Feel free. We are. How much longer do you want to hang out?
I mean, it's up to you. I mean, we can talk about other stuff. I don't know much more to talk about with this, but I'm interested. Oh yeah.
So just an FYI, for those of you who don't know, because I haven't really talked about it. Josh and I are going to be doing another discussion on the Gilda stories by Joel Gomez. Yeah, we're going to be reading that, and that discussion will probably take place the beginning of November. Oh my gosh, election. I may seriously be intoxicated.
Yeah. The night before the election to distract us.
Yeah. I might seriously be intoxicated because it's like I can't handle that. But anyway, I'm looking at the calendar. We can like kind of solidify it. So November 3rd is election. November 1st is like that first is a Sunday.
That works for me.
Shannon, genre of are you talking about the Gilda stories?
It's horror gothic. It's a vampire lesbian story, I think.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Sarah. We appreciate you guys joining us. But yeah, so we're going to be doing that. We'll just put it out there. Say it now, November 1st. You want to do that? Okay. You want to do same time?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So So November 1st at 3 p.m. It's going to be hosted on my channel, which I will link. Oh, no, I can't do that. I will link in the comments.
Yes. Oh, and make sure you like this video. It helps a lot.
Yes.
I know as a viewer, it may not seem like much, but as a creator, I've come to appreciate the value of a like, both mentally and also for the sake of the channel.
Yeah. Likes are important.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe. And if you are, oops, I can't put it there. Okay, that's the link to my channel. So if you need to hop over there, November 1st, the Guild of Stories, yes. So yeah, make sure you guys like and subscribe. That's important. And did you want to talk about anything else?
Well, because have you read Dracula before?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Have you read Dracula before?
It's been a long time. I have not revisited it.
What did you think about it in regards to this? The core.
So like Dracula. From what I remember, I did like Dracula. It's not scary. Okay. It's also, I feel like, another social commentary.
Yeah.
You didn't get that?
I didn't know. I was expecting this to be a horror about a vampire, and there was a lot of stuff about society, and I didn't really care that much about it, honestly. I just wanted more Dracula. I love the things that had Dracula in it, but the other ones just felt very Victorian.
Yeah.
Commentary. I don't know. It wasn't really the point of that question,
but I think it's another social commentary, though. Against, we don't like what we don't know anything about.
Yeah.
So, and we're quick to judge. But then again, I mean, if somebody is running around sucking people's blood and
yeah,
there's not a whole lot to think about there.
Yeah. I have much empathy for him. Before I read that book, I had seen plenty of adaptations of it when I was younger. Do you think it's superior to this as a horror novel, or no?
And I think they're unique in their own ways. I can't say that it's superior, but because I mean, I look at it as though, because Mary Shelley was really young when she wrote Frankenstein. And wait, did Frankenstein come before Dracula? I think it came before Dracula.
I think so. I'm pretty sure it came early in the Victorian era, and Dracula came late.
Yeah. I think because she kind of set the bar for kind of for the Gothic horror genre. And I think a lot of people just kind of piggybacked off of her.
Would you include Dracula in that?
1897. So yeah. With some things. Just kind of like the setting, the undead kind of thing that's going on. People living off of, like, literally being parasites to other people. Yeah. So
I got me asking this question is just a way of me saying, yes, this was superior, objectively speaking, in my opinion.
I would definitely go with that. But at the same time, just because it was like the beginning of the genre, and then on top of that, her husband edited Frankenstein, so it's tighter as well because he's an experienced writer, and I think this was her first.
Okay.
Her first like writing. So, whereas her husband was like already super popular and all that stuff.
You're very subjective about all this. Whether you're very, you're not as opinionated about this. More open-minded is what I'm looking for. You're more open-minded about this than I am.
Me? More open-minded?
The answer. Yeah, I don't know. Like you don't want to. It's like you don't want to put your you don't want to put too much stock into either one.
No, I mean because they're different.
Yeah.
I mean, if Bram Stoker, I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop the camera for a second, but I'll keep talking. But Bram Stoker is very. He's a different writer at the same time than Mary Shelley, and he's had like from the time that Shelley wrote hers to the time that Dracula was published, or he had written Dracula and it got published, are two different time periods. Not literary periods, but just years. And so he's had an opportunity to like expand upon and to build off, expand and build the same thing, to build upon what she had already started.
That would suggest that
had done as well.
That would suggest that he should be better, right?
No.
He's had time to reflect on what she did and improve upon it.
Authors do this all the time, and it doesn't make it better. Sometimes it's worse.
I mean, I was just curious. Are there any other horror, classic horror that you would recommend?
Any other classic horror? Depends. Okay, so The Picture of Dorian Gray.
I read that this year.
Okay. Let me see.
I like the tone overall.
Did you?
I didn't love it.
Have you read any other
classic horror? I mean, I read Rebecca, but that's like early 1900s, so not that early. I need to reread Wuthering Heights, which I know isn't. I don't know how horrific that is. I'm asking mostly just because I'm just curious moving forward.
Let me see.
If anyone else have any suggestions on classic horror that people should read,
or just and kind of in general, what would you recommend? If I were a newbie at horror, what would you recommend?
Well, I would ask people what they like. Do they like supernatural horror, or do they like psychological horror? And honestly, I think a good mix there would be Haunting of Hill House. It is pretty scary, or it can be pretty scary, but it walks the line of supernatural.
Really?
What do you mean?
You thought Haunting of Hill House was scary?
Maybe I'm thinking of the movie and the show more. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's pretty creepy. Yeah, I think the psychological side, because you don't know if it's real or not. You don't like it scary? You can be honest. It's okay. No one's judging you except for me.
Nobody's judging me except for you. Is that what you just said? Wow. I didn't think it was scary. I did not. I enjoyed it, but I didn't. It was.
What do you like? It reminds me a lot of, say, if we're talking about classic horror, The Yellow Wallpaper. It's a short story, but definitely a fantastic one. Like, it reminds me of that. It's sort of psychological horror if you don't know if something's real or not. And are you going insane, or are you experiencing something that's unworldly?
Yeah, I just did like a paper on the Yellow Wallpaper. Oh yeah, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh yeah, I need to read that. Yes.
The Turn of the Screw. Yeah. But I mean, The Yellow the yellow wallpaper is like one of my favorites. And I enjoyed, don't get me wrong, I did enjoy The Haunting of Hill House. I love Shirley Jackson's like short stories, The Lottery, and all of those. I want to read, what is it? They lived in a castle or something?
We've always lived in a castle, which
Yeah.
I need to.
Yeah. And I read some, what's her name? I can't think of her name now. Daphne Du Maurier.
Mm-hmm.
I read her short, huh?
I was asking if you read Rebecca.
I have not. I read her short stories, which are, some of them are better than others. But I enjoy her writing. I do want to read Rebecca, and then I think there's another one that I want to read. Well, several of them, and I think one has to do with has in the title, INN.
Jamaican Inn, is that right?
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read that one too.
I do need to ask, and if you don't think, so I like supernatural horror, and it makes me very unnerved, and it doesn't always work with some people. So what would you consider scary?
What would I consider scary? Like, are you recommending if I tell you what I want to read? Is that why you're asking?
I like examples of books you thought were scary, I guess.
Oh, examples of books that I thought were scary. I'm kind of hard to scare, to be honest. And I think that's kind of like the cynic in me.
So what about horror in general then? What would you consider as good horror? The question you gave me, I'm putting back at you.
Oh, why, thank you. The Woman in White is one of my favorites.
Okay, that's classic.
I don't know that that's particularly. It is a horror. It's classified as a horror, but I don't know.
I read The Woman in Black, and it was okay. It was also a while back.
I'm trying to think. The Turn of the Screw I haven't read, but I've heard that is kind of, because it's a ghost story, I think. But it's gothic horror. I don't know. I actually don't have a lot of horror in my library. I'm going down my Goodreads shelf, and I don't have a lot of horror, actually.
So horror that I've read this year, I'm gonna do that book tag, the Skull book tag, where I rank horror books. Like, I like Shirley Jackson's. I like Yellow Wallpaper, and I liked Paul Tremblay's books. Like, I read A Head Full of Ghosts, which was largely psychological. Like, we don't actually know if it's real or not. I'm pretty sure it literally referenced the Yellow Wallpaper, and I liked it for that. At the same time, I love myself a good Stephen King. Like it, I know it's not the problematic story, but like the atmosphere and the actual setting of the even though the monster is completely absurd, I can totally get into the horror of it, and it works for me. Like that kind of overtly supernatural can also work for me. Okay.
I don't like Stephen King.
I know a lot of people don't.
I mean, okay. So I don't like his writing style. I think that it could, in the hands of someone else, it could be executed better.
Have you read his son's books? I feel like his son is a good successor to him. I say that I haven't actually read any of his books. I only go off of what people have said.
They've written a book or books together.
Yeah, well, I think there was that Beauty and the Beast one. I had no interest in that one. Not Beauty. There was Sleeping Beauty. It did not sound good to me, so I'm not going to read that one. But I know he's written things like Heart Shaped Box, Nosferatu, whatever, like a retelling of the vampire story, Nosferatu. Other shit like that. I don't know.
I don't know. Like, who is it? Oh my gosh, Anne Rice and her Vampire Chronicles, and her son Christopher. He also writes horror.
Mm-hmm.
I tried reading one of his.
And
Not impressed.
yeah, I wasn't. See, I wasn't originally going to try out Joe Hill, but the problem was not a problem. The thing is I've heard such great things from other people about his writing that I want to give it a shot. Like it's highly anticipated, but not enough for me to actually go out and buy it brand new. I keep wanting to find it used somewhere.
Yeah. Joe Hill is, I mean, there's so many authors that I'm just not interested in reading.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Hill is one of them.
That's why, like, we all have.
I'll just have to rely on you to tell me about Joe Hill. Sarah is reading House of Leaves right now, and my workbook club, that was like the first book that we tried to read. I think only one person finished it, and it was not me.
Free horror.
They, House of Leaves. I was going to say Leaves of Grass. House of Leaves is weird. Have you read it or have you seen it?
I never heard of it before this.
Oh, okay. So if I remember correctly, House of Leaves started off like on the internet. Not fan fiction though. He was actually like writing it and posting like different parts. And it's really interesting how it's like set up, and there are parts that are like in different colors. I think I should know this because I have the book, but I don't know it because I didn't finish it. And there's like one, I remember this like one page that has like a square or something, and you kind of like read around the square, and then like the pages, you'll have like whole pages that may have just like one word or two words on them. So it's really interesting the way that it's set up. But I just couldn't get into it.
I think it's very popular.
It is very popular.
So The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I have read Stephen Graham Jones.
I have not read Stephen Graham Jones. I have a book. I don't have The Only Good Indians. I have Mongrels.
Oh, yeah. So I did read this. I liked it. It wasn't scary, but it was good. I really like Stephen Graham Jones, his writing style. He gets into the weird and confusing to the point where I often give like a 3 or 3.5 star, even though like it's the best 3.5 star that I have to experience. Like the confusion makes me rate it lower, but at the same time, there's something about it that I really like, and I want to keep going back to it. Okay, The Last Final Girl, like a slasher flick. I think I gave this 3 or 3.5 stars because it was the slasher flick setup did not work well as a novel, but I still love the experience of giving it a shot. And this novella was just really weird. And I read The Only Good Indians. I kind of want to reread it because it was also confusing, but at the same time, I like it because it's a different type of weird horror, unique stuff.
Yeah. I got The Only Good Indians. I just got it, as a matter of fact. And what I was looking for, some horror for the month. And then I forgot about, I don't know if you know about this or if anybody knows about this, but Brody at Etu Brody, they are hosting, actually, let me rephrase this. Brody at Etu Brody and Michelle at Tour. Let me see if I can find it. They are hosting Indigithon next month. And it goes the entire month of November. And I am going to be participating in that. So I decided to hold off on reading Stephen Graham Jones until next month.
That's Nonfiction November.
Yeah. And one of the prompts that they have is to read like a nonfiction as well. But let's see. Digithon.
Y'all, it's Brody.
Okay, sorry about that.
That was me for a second.
I'm trying to find Michelle's channel. Thor, Linktree.
Yeah, I found the Twitter page for the readathon.
Yeah, so I would definitely, if you want to read more Indigenous authors, definitely check out this. And if I remember correctly, Brody had some suggestions for authors to read.
Well,
So I definitely recommend that you check out their channel.
I have a couple I could recommend.
If you want to read some more Indigenous authors. And which one is that?
Some of the Trickster from the Trickster Trilogy by Ian Robinson. It actually got made into a TV show for CBC here in Canada. And it's about a coming of age story of a young boy who finds out he is related to a trickster god, or like his father was a trickster god.
Okay.
And it's a dark comedy fantasy, and it's technically YA, but I find it's kind of mature writing, and I like it. The first 2 or 3 are out.
Oh, okay. I have to plug on my computer, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stephen Graham Jones is one that I'd like to keep. I'd like to read as many of his as I could. I've read several now, and I want to keep buying his because I like his style. I actually first learned about him when I was reading Ellen Datlow, who is not Indigenous, but she is someone in horror that I've been reading a lot more of. And she does anthologies, and I've actually been buying a lot of her anthologies because big variety of different authors, and that's where I originally found out about Stephen Graham Jones. It's also where I first found out about Shauna McGuire and other people. Also, like Alyssa Wong, she does really good horror, but she hasn't done an actual book yet. Anyways, that's another recommendation for horror in general that I like. Ellen Datlow. If she does themed anthologies, and if you know what you like, you can find a theme that fits.
Okay. That's it's good to know. You should put that in the after this is over in the description.
Okay.
In like some of the books that you just recommended. But it's recommending books. I suck at recommending books. Like just stuff. I really do. And I shouldn't, because I work at a bookstore and I'm constantly recommending books on a daily basis. And maybe that's why, like, when people not at work.
What is it about recommending books that you don't like?
No, it's not that I don't like it. I just suck at it. When I'm not at work, I really suck at it.
I really want to read his newest book.
Ring Shout.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an arc of that.
I got rejected on NetGalley twice for the book e-arc and for the autobiography.
Really?
Yeah.
Haunting of Bamcar 015 and Jen of Cairo. I've never heard of this. Is, when we do things like this, I find that my TBR continues to grow because people are recommending.
You gotta stop thinking about your TBR as a solidified object, like as a closed system. It's more like a growing, living being. You have to foster
with tentacles.
Exactly.
And just keeps pulling you in.
The best you can hope for is that you keep it contained on Goodreads and not let it break into the real world, because that can become really devastating.
Yeah, that doesn't happen though. It's like it invades. I have so many books right now. I have officially moved into my closet. Like books moved into my closet.
This entire room now. I have I moved my dining room like I moved my living room into my dining room so I can do my living room like as a book room. Now it's just surrounded by books, and most of them I haven't read.
Yeah,
I like the book read.
I'm trying to decide because I can't do an unhaul video.
Yep. Sorry, I would never. I can't do unhauls. I just like all my books.
Yeah, there are books that I am going to get rid of just because they are now taking up. Yes,
I'm joking.
I have to. I am getting rid of the, what do you call that series? Outlander series, whatever that is.
Outlander. I don't know.
And George R.R. Martin.
Sorry about some fire.
Yeah, and what's that other one? The Hobbit.
Oh,
Tolkien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to read Lord of the Rings. I just bought it. Well, this year I bought it.
They are taking up space. They're taking up valuable real estate. And I cannot have that. And there are a lot of books that I need to go back in and reevaluate. One, I'm going to read them. And if I'm not going to read them, then I need to donate them. So I have a huge task ahead of me.
I actually have a big goal of mine this year to, at the end of the year, when I'm looking at my stats for the year, I want to plot how long I've owned each of my books, and also how long I owned a book once I read it. Like look back when I read it and how long I owned it up to that point. And to do some plotting to see how old are the books that I'm reading versus how long they're on my TBR. Which is a lot of technical work, but also I think a really interesting thing to see whether or not I'm actually reading my older books.
There's like a backlist challenge that I absolutely forgot that I was participating in. It's too late now, but I totally forgot about it because I signed up for that when I was blogging at the beginning of the year, and I think I just started. Well, not I think, but I just started reposting there, and I was like, oh, I was supposed to be doing this challenge. Oops, I forgot. But it's called Beat the Backlist, and I think the creator has like a spreadsheet. So every time you complete a book that was part of your backlist, then you just enter it into the spreadsheet, so you can kind of see what you've done.
Yeah, I've been trying to. I had a goal this year of reading mostly backlist books, which even within backlist, like reading older books, but it hasn't. I didn't give myself a strict enough rule. I didn't give myself a strict enough number or to go off of, so it's not really working. It hasn't worked. Reading a lot of newer books. I can't hear you. You muted yourself.
Yeah, I know. I was talking to my dad.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Right now, all I'm doing is I'm looking at literally my oldest books on my list, and I try to fit one or two on my TBR each month.
So what's your oldest book?
What is my oldest book? Or has been my oldest book? I want to say I had one from 2015 that I read this year. That I've owned, since 2015. That's not true. There might have been some from 2012, 2013. I've unhauled a couple that I realized I'm not going to read. But like this one here, I read last month, actually. I think I told this was like 2016 at least, maybe before then.
Bye, Sarah.
Oh, good evening. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate you participating. Yeah, so, and I just have this one, like, I don't even know when I bought it. This is when I started making my list. I just had to guesstimate when I got it. That's not true. I bought this on Thrift Books, so I can tell you the exact date that I bought it.
What, Sonia Sotomayor?
Yeah, Sonia Sotomayor. Which was actually a pretty good one. Pretty good memoir.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it for September.
I've heard good things about it. And when RBG died, like that at the bookstore, RBG Books was obviously really popular, but also Sonia Sotomayor was quite popular. got quite popular as well.
Yeah.
And I found that interesting that people would come in to buy her at the same time they're buying RBG. So I'm like, okay.
It was interesting timing. I read this one, and I also read a few months ago one by Sandra Day O'Connor, which I did not like. It was not like, it was like a high school level book about history. It wasn't about her life at all.
I have Michelle Obama's Becoming, and I really want to read it. And I know it's not, like White House driven or anything like that. I know it's like from her childhood. I've started reading it and I put it down because it's really a slow go. Have you read it yet?
No, it's on my shelf. I haven't decided if I'm putting it on my November TBR yet, but it's a high priority book.
It's a high priority or not?
It is for me. Yeah, I want to.
Okay. Okay, yeah, because I am putting it on my nonfiction November TBR. Because I got it when it first came out, so, and what, that's been like 2 years now, or something like that, and I still haven't read it yet. But anyway, so I want to get it. I want to read it, but it is definitely a slow go. It's a slow burn, and I know that a lot of people didn't like it because it wasn't, like a White House tell-all, that it was actually about her life. And I'm like, wait a minute, the White House is not just life. I mean, she's got something else other than the White House. But I don't know why it's so slow, but it is. So, but I also have the audiobook of it, and listening to her read it is just like, it's awesome. So I don't know why I didn't finish it.
I mean, I thought the audiobook would be pretty easy to get through. It was originally on my TBR for November, but then I made a decision after October, after I made my TBR for October, my TBR video, that I need to cut my TBRs down to 15 books max. And you don't think that's, it's like this, it's like, you want to have this conversation. It's the problem is that there are 1,000 different things I want to do.
I think you froze. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what happened to Josh, but he's just like frozen in space right now on the internet. So again, if anybody, let's see who's here. So there are 4 of you still here. If you would be so kind, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit the like button. Make sure you click subscribe to Josh's channel. And if you have any questions, to go ahead and ask. Feel free to ask me some questions while we wait and see if Josh comes back to us. I mean, I can't end the stream anyway, so yeah. Okay. So I don't know what happened to Josh, but here we are. Again, I can't, if you're still here, go ahead, feel free, ask me a question. Like I said,
are you still here?
I
was
like, I don't know Josh, but I'm still here. I can't end the live stream, so feel free to ask a question. Nobody has asked.
I was worried it would kick you off, so I texted my landlord yesterday because my internet wasn't working. I asked him to reset. I live in a basement, and he saw it this morning. He just saw it now, and so he said, "Wow."
Great.
You ready for the Wi-Fi now? He must not have really good for that.
I didn't know you lived in
so what was it? So like it's. What?
Oh, I thought you were talking.
Sorry, I thought you started saying something. What I was saying was that what is easy to do is not necessarily what I want to do. Like, I know myself, I know I will tend to gravitate towards certain actions, even though I would like to have the benefit of other actions too, that aren't necessarily my base instinct. And so it's important to me to take steps to help encourage other types of actions that I'd like to be able to do. Because like obviously I can listen to only books and never read a book ever because that's the easiest thing to do. But I'm also missing out on certain types of books, and
Right.
I think it's important for me to try to work to make that happen. So when I make these decisions, one, it isn't that I can't still read 20 books a month. It's just that if I plan for 15, I'll have more room for individual books. If that makes sense.
I'm just trying to figure out how people read that much. I mean, y'all are just like, I mean, it's no shade or anything like that. I mean, I just, and I am like a pretty fast reader. I think like for me, I tend to, because I do a lot of annotating, and that of course slows you down. And then I literally I handwrite my reviews. I don't type them in the computer. Well, that's a lie. So I handwrite them and then I type them up. But it takes me a long time to do that. And that's one of the reasons why, like, if you look at my channel, I don't even know the last time I did a review on my channel.
That's a goal of mine, is to do more individual reviews.
Yeah. So I definitely want to do more. Well, not more. I need to start individual reviews, even though they don't get a lot of traction. But that's just what I like. And I like critical analyses as well. So that's like I'm working on I just finished Transcendent Kingdom, which I read by Ya Jassy, which I did a buddy read with Greg at Supposedly Fun, and that I really enjoyed that. And then I need to like finish writing it up so I can do my review, and it's going to, I'm going to try and make it not spoilery, but I don't know. So I like to do like really in-depth reviews, which can be spoilery.
I'm just lazy is the problem. Like, not only do I type my reviews, I sometimes do voice to text and then just edit that. That's all lazy reviews. Sometimes I'm just in the mood. It's like I'll just say what I was going to say and try to make it work after. But like, also keep in mind, like, all these names you were giving me for this book. Remember how that's how I read so many books. Is because I'm listening at double speed, and some of the finer details I don't remember. I don't retain. I retain what I think is necessary to understand the book and appreciate it.
I see.
Like I don't always not remember the names. It's just if I do remember them, they go by really fast. Like even
I am the complete opposite. I have to read with context and make sure that it makes sense. And that's what's frustrating, because I mean, I can slow myself down with reading, because if it doesn't make sense, I need it to make sense before I can move on. And I can't just stop.
So that's not untrue for me. Like, I recognize that if I'm not retaining information or a certain amount of information, I will be lost by mid-story. Like,
no, not retaining it. Not retaining it. Just it's got to make sense.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's to walk the line of understand of how much of this is not making sense because I'm lost, or how much is not making sense because it's supposed to become clearer later. And by the time I realize it's either me or the story intentionally doing that, it might be too late to remedy that.
Yeah.
I would feel more like that when I'm actually physically reading a book with my eyes. because for me to be able to stay focused on what's going on, I have to really understand what I'm reading. That's why I'm so slow when I'm trying to look at a page.
Mm-hmm. So there may be only one other person in here. Do you want to end the stream and we can still chat?
Sure. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for watching.
Bye. Thanks for watching.
Remember to like this video, please, and especially those of you who are here to the end. Thank you so much. If you are here to the end after this live is done, give us a monster emoji of any kind. Have a great day, everyone.